Here's part 2 of my conversation with Lawrence Seiler. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to our channel.
That you also advocate for accessible services for people with disabilities. So in your life, what are some of the services that you use, and how accessible are they actually to you?
Well, like I said, in those circumstances that I've helped advocate for, um, we still have a long way to go. Transportation is, um, New York had this horrible thing called Accessoride, which was a van that picks people, accessible van that picks people up,
We have
right, to
yeah.
go to medical appointments. I'm sure every state has its own version. But if you're an hour late picking somebody up, or 6 hours late picking somebody up, is it doable? No.
No.
Okay. I've sat on numerous committees in New York. The Bronx Borough President's Disability Committee, and numerous other types of disability committees, um, in the borough of the Bronx and all over. But it's just, if
But how do we change that, Lawrence? What can we do to change that? Because I have friends that tell me exactly what you're saying, that you have to make an appointment so far in advance, and that always doesn't work, because you can have something come up in your life that you need to go somewhere that day.
example, here in Vermont, they have this new thing, um, called called GMT Ride. GMT stands for Green Mountain Transit. Okay, and you have to call for the bus to pick you, or the van to pick you up, to take you. Um, the reason why during the pandemic they took it away is that drivers were going around with empty buses, so it was wasting time because I had nobody on the bus. But what if you don't have a phone? And what if you don't have a computer? There are some people in my building, in my wife's building, um, in our building, that don't have those luxuries of having a computer.
You're
That don't have.
exactly right.
Mm-hmm. I get certain services through the Division for the Blind because I'm visually impaired. So what if you don't? Yeah, if you don't have a computer, if you don't have certain services, then you're stuck. The bus used to come like every half an hour, to take people to Walmart and so on and so forth. But now they changed it. So if you don't have a phone, how can you call to make an appointment?
Do you
So
think that by you being on all these boards that you've been on, and you've been representing people like yourself, is that helping? Because I think that's important. They need to hear from people like
how
you.
how we can change it is give people a free phone, or access to a phone, so they don't have to pay for one of these prepaid phone. Um, well, I do this so there's no, the bill is low, so but give people a prepaid phone, give people access to a computer or tablet for free, so they can, uh, and do it more. They're starting to do that in certain agencies here, like, but give people more access, and give people better Wi-Fi in rural areas.
True, yeah, because if they can't get the signal, they can't get online.
Exactly, and give people one of the biggest things that, besides technology, I'm going to talk about. You and I, and people in our circle, uh, and my wife, because we're married, um, we have access to housing. But there are some people that don't have access to adequate housing. And Biden's administration is going to change that by putting money into stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And he's trying to pass in both the House and the Senate the stimulus bill. Some of the
Yeah.
Republicans, one of the biggest problems is the Republicans are saying it's too lavish. Don't give them so much.
Yes, but they make, you know what they make? Their salaries?
Mm. Well, I agree that you shouldn't give people so much money. You should, otherwise they won't want to work. That's another thing, and another conversation at another time.
Right, because I was going to say to you, I don't know if you heard, but I actually have a campaign going. And for everybody listening, I have a campaign going to try to get the White House to light up in green on March 25th. So if anybody wants to write letters, there's people who have been writing letters from the United States and other countries. So feel free, just go to whitehouse.gov/contact. And I also want to remind everybody that you can subscribe to our channel and you can watch this episode with Lawrence, and I'll have all the information about him in the show notes. And you can also watch the episodes that have aired prior to his. And now I'm going to get back to this fabulous discussion with Lawrence. And Lawrence, I want to know more about Able Than On Air. Tell us about that.
Okay. Well, Ableton on Air was started again in 2015. See, Ableton on Air originally started as an internet radio program in New York. We started it as an extension of the other program, Special People, Special Issues, I was doing in the Bronx. And then when I moved here, then we brought it to TV. And it's basically almost the same premise. If people are on um, computer and happened to see one of my old programs, it's pretty much the same premise where it's for and about people with special needs, and we interview organizations. We interview people. I've interviewed in the past nurses. I've interviewed, especially with Green Mountain Support Services. They have a wonderful nursing program with nurses. I've interviewed uh, advocates, artists, people that paint,
Mm-hmm.
um, um, so
What's
on
the
and so
goal of the
forth.
show?
The goal of the show is to teach people um, or to give people resources that they can turn to. My wife and I have been executive producing this program because it needs to be done. Even if we didn't have sponsors like Green Mountain Support Services and others, we would still do it because it just needs to be done. It's extremely important to get the word out about those services. Like I said, there are people in this world that don't have a phone, that don't
Right.
have
They just don't know what's out there.
exactly. And how are you not going to know what's out there if you don't know?
Right.
you
And
know?
a lot of people I find they're not like they don't have that quality like you and I have where they're just going to look information up. As easy as information is to find, some people are just so overwhelmed that they don't know what to do, and they don't know that something's out there unless they hear it on the radio. Remember when we used to listen, to the radio and there would be ads in between for services or whatever,
Mhm.
or if they don't see it on television, now, if they don't see it on social media, there's no way that they would know. And especially elderly people also, like you said, a lot of them, they don't have computers. They don't even know how to operate a computer.
Now, now AARP has a situation. The Association for Retired Persons, they have a situation where you can get a computer or get a free computer
Okay.
for for usage.
That's
You know,
great.
But one of the things that Vermont has is we live so close to everything. Okay, we live near the library, 2, 3 minutes away. If I didn't have a computer, I would go there to use
Right.
it. But you can only use the library for an hour
Mm-hmm.
to use the computer because it logs you off when you yeah. Um, because we're still in the middle of the pandemic, and libraries are opening up again or have opened up. A library for a person with a challenge is a wonderful resource. One
Right.
of the main things that I want to talk about, and one of the biggest services that I've gotten here is the Vermont Division for the Blind and Visually Impaired. They've helped me with the computer. They've given me resources. I've already known resources, especially in New York, but um, you know they they helped me with getting new glasses. You know,
Right.
but like I said, if you don't know these resources, and people are sometimes scared to get the resource is not going to come to you.
That's right.
Example, if you want a job so bad enough, it's not going to just come, it's not going to
It's
come
not
to
gonna fall
you.
in your lap, that's for sure.
Exactly. And
Mm.
another thing, um a small smidgen of this is the show Able to On Air teaches people how to advocate for themselves,
I love that.
how to have a voice. It has a voice for those who don't know how to speak. Okay, I had a wonderful organization, Washington County Mental Health, here in Vermont, and they have a wonderful part of the organization, the Communications Bureau. You know, um, some of the people there can't speak physically, but they use tablets, they use computers to speak. Okay, it has a computerized voice, so they type what um, needs to be said.
Mm-hmm.
People with special needs don't assume. One piece of a lot of advice I'm coming. Don't assume, Nicole, that a person can't speak. Okay.
Absolutely right.
Example: if you're in a restaurant, it goes towards etiquette. Okay. If you see a deaf person, and then, what is she going to have? What is she going to have?
They don't talk to the person, they
Why
talk
don't you?
to
Yeah. Why
the
don't you ask him what he or she wants?
Yep.
One of the biggest things is we're talking about dating.
Oh, that's
Okay.
a whole other show.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. This
I know,
comes
I'm just teasing you.
right. Talk about dating and people with special needs. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was very fortunate. My wife, I have a wonderful family. But here's the thing: when uh, um, if the person wasn't disabled, if you see some men sometimes take over. Oh, she'll have such and such.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm
Controlling
having.
people.
One of the things. Have you ever seen the movie Titanic?
Of course, it's one of
Okay,
my favorite movies.
where the evil person in that. Um. Oh, she'll have the lamb. And she's looking at him like
Like, excuse me, I think I can speak for myself.
you're exactly. So if we want a courtesy and roll that piece in this, I mean, you'll understand the dining scene. I mean, you'll understand.
Mhm.
People will understand. You can't take over somebody's life. You have to let them control their own life.
Yeah, that's really
Jo-
a good point. It really
Josh
is.
Josh tells me all the time on Ableton on there when he's the guest. You know, Green Mountain Support Services. you know, give we give people independence. We don't take over for them. If you want to paint, if you want to go fishing, different things people want to do.
Just so
To
everybody knows, Lawrence, so
mhm.
Green Mountain Support Services, they're located in Vermont, and they actually put on this podcast, and they're the folks behind the Cerebral Palsy Conference that takes place every year. This year it'll be the sixth year that they're doing it. It's going to be virtual. It's going to be on October 1st and 2nd. So please click on the link that will flash on your screen and you'll find out all about it. That's who Josh is. So I've tried to get Josh on this program because I want people to see who he is and what he does, but maybe one of these days he'll actually come on. But I wanted everybody to know who you're speaking about.
Yeah, Joshua Smith is the executive director. He's wonderful. Everybody is wonderful at Green Mountain Support Services, and they've been supporting Ableton on Air for a long time, and they continue to support us as well. And they're
Right.
wonderful.
Yeah, they are. And
Yep.
as we wrap up, what advice do you give to people with any type of disability who look at you and say, Larry, how did you do it? How did you go from a somewhat rough upbringing in New York and then now you have your own show? I mean, how did you do that?
Well, um, how can I put this? You have to, it's like, um, you know, it's like a Rocky story. If you keep
Another
on,
great movie.
if you keep on, if you keep on, if you fall, you gotta get up.
Fall 7 times, get up 8.
Exactly. So that's how I do it. You can't give up. Yes, there were people that told me, "Oh, I can't because I'm retarded, I'm disabled, I'm this, I'm that." But after a point, one of the big pieces of advice is that you have to just zone it out, not pay attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if a person keeps paying attention to that mess,
They're not going to
you
amount
know
to anything.
exactly. You know, as Josh always tells me, time is money. Okay, you you have to focus
Mm-hmm.
on or there's an old song. It was an old TV show, and the song was sung by Sammy Davis Jr. Keep your eye on. If it was the Beretta tune, keep your eye on the sparrow. You gotta
Mm-hmm.
keep your eyes
Mm-hmm.
focused, and just do your best.
You know what you're talking about? Have you ever heard the term stay in your lane?
Yeah.
So if you're running a race and if you're running a race, if you look at Olympic athletes of any sport, they're not looking at what the person next to them is doing. They are in their lane and they are focused straight ahead to the finish line.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what you're saying. And I think it's such a great message because people often they look at me and they think that I'm doing things and they think they can't do it. And I constantly tell them that's not true. You could do whatever you want to do. If they want to have a show just like you, they can have a show. Now they have to do the work. They
Yeah,
have to
because you
put
just
the
can't.
time in. You just can't say, I'm just going to, okay, I'm going to have my show and 25 years later, I'm still going to be doing it. No, you have to do the work and you have to hustle. That's just the way it is. But a lot of
Well,
people don't want to
mhm.
do the work.
I'll give you a prime example of my former mentor. Now, I still keep in touch with BronxNet Television. They're wonderful people. Um, you never close the door either, right? Never close the door because you never know, especially in employment, when you need to open that door again. That's a general rule, disability or not. That is a general rule Never close the door because you never know when you can use it again. My former mentor from Channel 2 News, JJ Gonzalez, who was the news director at Channel 2 News, and then he became my professor at Lehman and taught me, um, you know, taught me how to dress. Okay,
Dress for success.
I'm not wearing a shirt and tie today, but you know, shave, look presentable, do certain things.
Yes,
You know,
it all matters. It all adds up.
don't go on air with wrinkled clothes. Try to get wrinkle free.
And
you
yeah,
know,
you're exactly right.
because he turned around. He told me he said, if you come to on air again with wrinkled clothes, I'm sending you home.
He wasn't playing. He wasn't
If you,
playing.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's a job. You create something, you work at something, and you put in the work without I don't want to say bad words on air, but without messing around.
Right.
I'm gonna say without messing around. If someone believes in you and your mission, continue with it, but
Yeah. And
don't
the most important thing about your story is that you believed in yourself.
exactly. Don't give up. I know jobs are really hard to find these days, but if you can't get a job, create
Make
one.
one. Yeah, I was just gonna say because a lot of my friends they either have their own businesses, they're entrepreneurs, or they have they write or speak or they do different types of things where those types of jobs that they create they gives them the flexibility so that they can work, contribute to society, but also their disability doesn't hinder what they're trying to do. And
Now, now if something, excuse me, I'm sorry. If something takes you longer, like when I was getting my degree, I was working and going to school. So if something takes you longer to do, it's okay if it takes you another year or another 6 months to
right,
do something.
right.
You can't give up so easy, and there are so many people in this world that give up.
Have you
Um,
been spying on me in my brain? Because I talk about this all the time. With almost every one of my guests, I say, look, if you want to do something, you can do it, but you have to want it bad enough, and it
and
doesn't matter.
there's so many people that say, no, this is a political thing, and I'm going to bring this up.
Well, we're
This,
not going to get into politics because I might get into trouble. So I'm going to redirect you there and say that,
well,
you and
there's so
I,
many people. The only thing I'm going to say, there's so many people in this world that don't want to work. Okay, they just want to sit home and be complacent and lazy.
well, I've talked about that too, where some people just don't have the internal motivation. That's what I find.
Hmm.
That I think you and we have that in common where we want to contribute. We want to be a part of society. We want to showcase our gifts and our strengths because everyone watching, you have a gift and
Hmm.
you can share it with the world. But
Hmm.
some people, I meet people where I think, gee, don't they want more? But maybe they don't. So I think we're going to end it on that note because I want everybody to take a lesson from your story
Hmm.
because you are an example of someone who hasn't given up your entire life,
Hmm.
and because you persevered, you are doing something that you love. You're giving back to society in a way that is very important because you discuss topics on your show that listen, advocates like me, this is what we fight for every day.
Mhm.
We fight for these topics to be, let's call it mainstream, so that we hear them more often and people get the help and the recognition and the support that they need. So I thank you, and I'm so happy that so it was great talking to you. And I want to remind everybody to subscribe to the channel, to visit our website, cerebralpalsyconference.org, and learn all about the conference, because it's going to be great. And we look forward to seeing you there on October 1st and 2nd. Lawrence, it was a pleasure meeting you today. Thank you so much.